Universal Studios, Florida, Impact Wrestling, Pop TV tapings. Talk about pop, you gotta talk about Petey Williams. Raising the roof at the Impact Zone here at Universal Studios, Florida. Petey, what's it like, this ride, been like, this wrestling ride, the journey? You've been doing everything and everywhere. Just put it in perspective if you can.
Oh man, I mean, it's nothing like I've ever imagined that I do in my life. Like ever since I was a little kid, I wanted to be a pro wrestler, and you know, my parents are like, get a real job like any, you know, parents and all that kind of stuff. And I was just so in love with this business, and you know, I just decided one day, I said, I'm gonna go do it. And I met the right person. I was working out at the gym. He said he knew of a school. I knew nothing about the school in the area, and he took me to it because he did a practice. He went to one training session there, and that's when I met Scott Gamora. And man, you know, Scott's he's such a good trainer, so considerate of the actual person that you are. He knew I was still going to, you know, college, my post-secondary, and he was like, you know what, man, you gotta, you know, I'll train you, but you gotta make sure you finish school, you know, maybe wrestle on the weekends or whatever like that, make sure you get your homework done and everything.
How many trainers say that to their...
They don't, they usually take your money and run, right? Like, oh yeah, you want to train here? Okay, yeah, and they try to train you, whatever. But he said, you know, you gotta be prepared for life after wrestling, or if this doesn't work out. And I was never, ever expecting this to work out. When I first met him, he's like, you know, you're 5'0", 100 or nothing, like, you know, this isn't the business for you, but I didn't care. And I loved it. My goal in pro wrestling was just to have one match in front of a live crowd, and I accomplished that. The next was, you know, I want to get better and stuff. And then after wrestling for some years, I just finished college, and Scott was like, hey, you know, you might have an opportunity at Impact. They got this Team Canada thing they want to do, and it just turned out like they had one more spot available, and I took it, and that was my first run, and then I did everything that I did, and you could check that all out, and then I retired, and then never thought I would come back, ever. So content in my retirement.
What were you doing in retirement?
You know, just family stuff and doing some other, my own business and all that kind of stuff. And
what kind of business, Petey?
You know, I can't really talk about it.
Oh, okay, that's all right.
Yeah, you know, I just got...
Just you were doing other things.
Yeah,
outside of wrestling.
Actually, you know. Yeah. And you go, cause I'm still in that business, but I can't really talk about it.
That's fine.
Yeah, then Scott called me up last year, like around February, asking me like, you know, how's everything going? You know, the office is asking about you, and I said, you know, I'm not interested. You know, I'm done. And he said, how are the kids doing? And I'm like, yeah, you never met my youngest, my 1-year-old, and he's, you know, at the time I think he was like, he wasn't even 1 yet, I believe. So a few months, I don't remember. 2 years, no, maybe it was a year, something like that. Anyways, regardless, he said, oh, you know, I'm glad the kids are doing well and stuff like that. You know, I just thought maybe, you know, your kids might want to see what their daddy used to do. So he totally tugged at my heartstrings. It was during nap time, and I was like laying in bed with my 3-year-old when we were texting each other. And then I got up and I talked to my wife and I said, hey, listen to this ridiculous conversation that I just had with Gamora. And I told her about it, and she just goes, do it. And I said, excuse me? She's like, do it. She's like, I got the kids that are here, you know, it fits your schedule and what we're doing here. And I said, okay, so I had to, you know, the other stuff I'm involved in, I had to get a lot of approval and all that kind of stuff. So, you know, it turned out to be good to go, and by August, that was my return to Impact Wrestling in the world of professional wrestling. Now,
the little one is 3 now, or 4? Or?
No, I have a 7, a 3, and a 1.
Oh, okay, so 7. You have a 7-year-old too. So now when the 7-year-old sees Daddy on TV or at an event, what has that been like?
She's like, I might introduce her to wrestling. Like, I have, like maybe on a pay-per-view I might have her watch the first match before bedtime or something, which is usually a hot babyface heel match, no gimmicks, no blood, anything like that. So she's seen a few matches, and my big, I did an independent show for my return. My wife, it was a local show, my wife brought my 7 and my 3-year-old, and that was pretty special to me.
It's awesome, isn't it? Once you have kids, it's like a whole different world. As a wrestler, as a single guy, and then a wrestler as a family man.
It's way different, and You know, like she always asks, like, "Hey, Daddy, how'd you get that scar there?" And I'm like, "Well, you know, Daddy used to do this thing called wrestling and stuff." And you know, so it's hard to explain to them, but yeah, a local show that we had that